So working on the Facebook. Oh, we are live. We're live. We're live. Okay. 6:10. I'll mute for now.
audio, please refrain from using the microphones in front of you and touching them. And I'd also like to begin this event with a land acknowledgement. The Berkeley Forum would like to take this time to acknowledge that our events and UC Berkeley's campus still in the territory of the Ohlone people, and that we benefit from the occupation of this land. It is important to us that we recognize the history out of the respect for the Mwekma Ohlone who are still present in Berkeley and the Bay Area today. For more Native education resources on campus, we encourage you to look into the Centers of Educational Justice and Community Engagement. I'd also like to give a quick shout out to our student organization partner for today, Undergraduate Real Estate Club, and for helping with outreach and club marketing. So I'd like to pass things off to Ivy.
Thank you, Lucy. First of all, I'd like to thank the Berkeley Forum for having us here today. My name is Ivy Ta, and I'm the Internal Vice President for the Undergraduate Real Estate Club here, also known as UREC. And being UC Berkeley's only real estate organization for undergrads, UREC strives to give members the necessary financial and networking tools to succeed in the field of real estate. Members are given resources to understand the ins and outs of the industry, learn the fundamentals of finance, as well as find jobs and internships within the real estate sector. We welcome members of all backgrounds and look forward to growing the real estate presence here at UC Berkeley. And we're so excited to have Brett Oppenheimer here today, a fellow Cal Bear who found huge success in the real estate world, and we can only hope to be like him one day. And now I'd like to pass it on to our event manager for the night, Justin.
Thank you. Everyone, and welcome to Brett Shella. Brief introduction of the speaker. Before he was the star of Netflix's Selling Sunset and landing record-breaking sales, Brett Oppenheim was a Berkeley student, corporate litigation attorney, and made a variety of transitions in his life. He was named by The Hollywood Reporter as one of Los Angeles' top 25 real estate agents and gained global recognition as the star of Netflix's Selling Sunset. Brett has built an illustrious career in real estate, consulting on a series of large developments, managing a multi-million-dollar portfolio, and overseeing his own brokerage, Oppenheim Real Estate. Prior to real estate, Brett graduated Phi Beta Kappa from our very own UC Berkeley with highest university honors, was designated a Merit Scholar at UCLA School of Law, and was a securities litigation attorney, and as he advised a consortium of investment banks. Beyond his professional endeavors, Brett's foundation consistently donates to community organizations that fight local poverty and provide access to employment for underprivileged residents. And it is my pleasure to welcome tonight's moderator, Aaliyah Benino, and our guest, Mr. Brett Oppenheim.
Thank you, Dustin, for that warm welcome.
You guys can hear us pretty well?
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And Brett, it's a pleasure to be welcoming you back to Berkeley.
I was here like a month ago. I don't know if any of you guys were here, but I didn't realize it'd be in the exact same room. I was here a month ago speaking with a bunch of people in Alan Musk's spot. But it's nice to be back. I appreciate it. I want to thank the Berkeley Forum for having me here, for airbrushing my pictures so well. So yeah, I appreciate that. And I do apologize if I'm showing too much chest today, but until I get the mic strong. Also, I'd like to introduce you to Tina Louise. Before we take this, don't be creeped out of swap around.
Yeah, thank you again, Brett, for joining us. As mentioned, you attended UC Berkeley for your undergraduate career.
I'll interrupt you all the time.
Yeah.
I'm the worst guest I've ever had. My mom and my dad met at UC Berkeley, and my brother and I and my uncle all went to UC Berkeley. So I'm very UC Berkeley centered town. So my grandparents, before you stop, my grandparents went to Stanford and then Stanford. So, I know.
Yeah, well, I'm glad we're the family team. Sorry for that. It's great to be trajectory. So I'm curious about what was your experience like attending Cal?
I really enjoyed it here. I actually transferred. Speaking of Ohlone, I haven't heard that name in a long time, but you guys mentioned it in the introduction. I went to a community college called Ohlone Community College for 2 years, and then I transferred here. I was an idiot in high school. I actually went to 4 high schools. So I wasn't the model high school student, to say the least. But that allowed me, the opportunity to get into Berkeley. And I had a phenomenal time here. I went here with my brother. I did pretty well, and it opened doors for me. So I very much enjoyed Berkeley, and my family's still from there.
So, touching more upon your personal experiences, your great-great-grandfather, Jason Stern, was prominent
Jacob.
Jacob Stern, my apologies, was a prominent real estate entrepreneur that started your family's 5-generation real estate business. How do you think growing up in a family-run business affected your childhood and personal development?
It wasn't like a linear company that my great-great-grandfather started. Both my parents actually taught at the university level, so they were kind of real estate, kind of education. My grandparents were mostly real estate. My great-grandparents were never met. So it wasn't like I was born in a business where everyone worked for the same company. It was kind of like structure. But I always had real estate in my background. And any environment that you grow up in is always going to form part of what you want to do. Well, not always. Maybe it'll form, maybe you don't want to do that. But in some way or another, positively or negatively, it'll probably form what you want to do with the rest of your life and your professional career. And in my childhood, just growing up around real estate, I didn't know I was going to get into real estate. I ended up being a lawyer, wasn't a huge fan of sitting in an office. So when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, I always kind of had that notion in my background maybe a little bit. So it formed me in that way.
Yeah, as you mentioned, before becoming a successful real estate professional, you used to work as a securities litigation attorney at two of the largest international law firms in the world. How, if at all, did your experiences in the corporate world translate into the work that you do now?
The number one thing I got out of working for corporate America is how awesome it is to not be working in corporate America. That's the main thing. And I don't really like completely bash. I guess I do need to, but for some people, it's totally fine. And I mean that seriously. Like, there's so many different types of people in this world, which is beautiful. Because if everybody was like me, it would probably be a pretty crappy world. And if everybody was like any one person in here, it'd probably be a pretty crappy world. So it wasn't for me. Corporate America wasn't for me. So I would say the number one way that it impacts me every day is when I look in the skyline of downtown Los Angeles and I see the buildings I used to work at. I'm just happier that I'm not there. I'm being totally honest.
So what was the main motivation behind your decision to transition from the corporate world into real estate?
I'm really going to be passionate for corporate America. I don't want to, because it's an amazing, stable structure for a lot of people, and it's an amazing way to build wealth. In fact, I educate a lot of people on building wealth with real estate, and the best way to do that is to have a stable income, which corporate America can provide you, and then start investing. So, but I'm just speaking from my personal, that's all I can do is give you my personal perspective. I wasn't happy in an office with a boss indoors and that whole thing. It just didn't vibe with me. So repeat that.
What was your main motivation?
Yeah. So everyone, when I left, I had a good law firm job. It was like the best law, one of the best law firms there is in the world. I had like views of the entire city and the secretary and the salary and all that good stuff. The prestige. I had a lot going for me. And when I left, everybody's like, man, you have some balls on you to like leave all that and go. And I honestly didn't have any balls. It didn't take balls at all because I was so miserable and it took balls to stay. It wasn't even a choice. And everybody was giving me all this credit for like, you're so courageous. I wasn't even, at that point, I was pretty miserable. It wasn't a choice. So it was actually very easy.
So your family's been involved in the real estate world for generations. But I'm curious about how you would say you and your brother Jason's approach has differed from that of previous families.
In my family, they've done everything from like developing and retail and commercial. And just my dad was like a part-time real estate agent. So everyone in my family, I'm cheating for this part of the room. I apologize. So in my family, everyone was doing just different kind of stuff. Nobody had ever had a real estate brokerage, which my brother and I do now. So in that way, it's all brand new. We're doing it completely different than anyone else in my family ever has. So it feels, even though it is a lineage of real estate in my family, what we're doing right now is just us and nobody's done it before in our family. So I feel like we're doing something new.
Is there a real estate concept that you would like to share with the audience today?
I think and maybe this will be more, important for you guys to learn, but for everybody, I think if there's one thing that I can, if I could teach one thing about real estate to all of you in 3 minutes or less, I think it would be this. And let me ask, because you guys might know the answer to this, but let me ask somebody else. Like, why do you think? I personally think real estate is granted I'm partial, but I think it's maybe the greatest investment, the greatest way to form wealth, certainly long term. But does anybody know why it is in a word? And if you guess wrong, that's fine, because most people will. I hope you guess wrong. Go ahead.
It's generational.
It does provide generational wealth. Yes, but that's not the word, that's not the one reason that I would attach to it. And I'm not saying my reason is the only reason, but it is the best reason. That's a great one, because like compared to stocks, I mean, yes, there's dividends on stocks, but real estate has a much more, you get rents from real estate. So that's a great one, but I still don't think it's the best one, right? Passive income, yeah, but that kind of ties in with his. I mean, it's not 100% passive, like dividends on stocks, you literally just kick back and don't do shit. With real estate, you have to manage a little bit, but it's still passive, but it's definitely considered passive. And then that's a great one, but it's not the one I'm looking for. Right behind you, sorry. Raise your hand first. Great one, but not the one I'm looking for. But I like that you guys aren't guessing it, because then I'm teaching you something. But go ahead, I'll come on that.
It's tangible.
That's a great one, but it ties into cash flow, because that's why you get cash flow, is because it's tangible. Like a stock, you can't do anything with it, right? You can look at your stock certificate if you want to. You know, gold, you can wear around your neck, I guess. But real estate, you can live in, you can shower in, and that's why you get the cash flow from it. So that ties into that one. Go ahead. That is a great one, and I would tie that into appreciation, because that's why it appreciates. And appreciation and cash flow are probably the two best guesses, other than the word I want you to come up with. Yes, but that ties into appreciation and cash flow. I'm just gonna tell you, I'll give you like 2 more guesses.
Stock here, flying something, but when you buy real estate, it's like your own thing.
Yeah, that's absolutely true, but it ties into tangibles. That might be a better answer than the one I was coming up with, but that's not it. Okay, I'm just gonna tell you leverage. And so let me give you an example of why I think, because honestly, if you bought $1 million worth of stock right now, you bought $1 million worth of real estate right now, in 10 years, the stock statistically would probably be worth a little bit more, or they would be about even. But actually, statistically, over the last 50 years, the stock might be worth a little bit more, and that might surprise you. And there are some other assets that might be worth as much more. So then why buy real estate versus stock, for example, if in 10 years they're going to go up the exact same? And the answer to that is leverage. Go into a bank and say, or artwork. Artwork goes up too. You know, a lot of watches go up. I just sold a couple of watches. I made a shit ton. Because I don't wear them anymore because I'll get robbed if I do in LA. That's literally why I sold. So let me just walk you through life. I'm sorry, but it's important. Let's say you have $200,000, right? You get a corporate America job, you save 200 grand in 4 years. That's the beauty of corporate America. And you buy $200,000 worth of stock. And let's say I buy $200,000 worth of stock, and Tina buys $200,000 worth of real estate, but she gets an $800,000 loan, because you can get a loan for real estate at usually 41, but now 20%. So she has $1 million house with her $200,000, right, cash, and I have $200,000 in stock. And you're thinking, well, why don't you get $1 million worth of stock? You go walk into a bank and tell them you want an 80-20 loan on stock, and they're going to kick you out of it. But you walk in for real estate, they get you a glass of water and sit you down and pamper you. It's the only way you can get that kind of loan. So she has $1 million house, and I have $200,000 in stock. You with me? We both had $200,000 in cash. Let's say they both go up 5% a year for 10 years. But let's just say they both double, let's say, which is about 5-6% for like 12 years. Let's say they double in 12 years. So how much did I make in 12 years on my stock? People, I bought $200,000 worth of stock and it doubled. I bought $200,000 worth of stock and it doubled. How much did I make? I made $200,000. How much did she make? She has $1 million house and it doubled in 12 years. She made $1 million. So she made $1 million on her 200,000, and I made 200,000 on my 200,000. And the reason is because she used leverage and I didn't, because you can use leverage in real estate and you can't in stocks and pretty much anything else. You go to a bank, you try to get leverage on artwork, it's not going to happen. Watch is not going to happen. Gold not going to happen. Stocks not going to happen. Real estate, all day, if you have some income. So that's the beauty. That's why real estate is the best investment I think in the world, because of leverage. So I hope I make that point clear. The last question, that's what I got.
Okay, so following up on your experience in real estate, you are consistently named by the Hollywood Reporter as one of Los Angeles' top 25 real estate agents. What distinguishes you from other luxury real estate agents?
You know, actually, pitch myself right now, but I actually have a course if anyone's interested in real estate on my website. It answers a lot of this, but I'll answer it in 30 seconds, less than I can. I think knowledge, you know, you don't just get your real estate license and lease a C-Class Mercedes and buy a few A-frame open house signs and then you're, you know, just gonna be successful real estate. That's really not the way it works, which is why 90% of real estate agents don't make money. I think you really have to be knowledgeable. You really have to be disciplined and knowledgeable. So you have to know all of the upcoming listings, all of the inventory, all of the development projects, all of the streets, every single block where the schools are. And then when you have dinner with somebody and they're like, hey, and you can ask them like, well, where do you live? And they say, oh, I live on Alpine in Beverly Hills. Like, oh, and I would be like, oh, I love that street. You know, they're building that $13 million house on the 800 block. Do you live next to the school on the 600 block? Do you live closer? And I would be able to like explain to them that I know everything about their street. Whereas another agent would just be like, that's cool, that's a nice area. And so it's really knowledge that separates the, I would say the great from the good in real estate. There's a lot of things that do, but I would say knowledge number one, which takes time and discipline and energy. And I would say most of it, more than anything, discipline.
As I'm sure many of the audience know, you're part of the hit reality show Selling Sunset, which documents the real estate world of LA and all of its glitz, glamour, and drama. Once cameras were on you and your team, did you experience any shifts in your professional work?
Well, we have to come out of the office to take pictures for all the tour buses. I think that's the main difference right now between the four. And I would say it's easier to meet clients. Like, you know, being on a show kind of greases the wheels. They think it's cool. They get either they can get their house on camera or they're working with someone who's kind of somewhat of a celebrity. So I mean, it kind of greases the wheels for all of our transactions. But it hasn't been a night and day difference. I would say the women on the show probably experienced a bigger difference. They had more room to grow, and now they're really doing well. So I would say they experienced a bigger difference than my brother and I. They also probably make more on Instagram than they do on real estate. It's freaking annoying because my brother and I don't shit on it.
Has the presence of the camera in the room affected like the workflow of the office at all?
Yeah, I mean, it's not there. Thankfully, it's not like it's there every day, all day. So when the cameras are there, yeah, we get less done. I would say that's true. Yeah, definitely less done. But thankfully, they're not there every day.
Were there any scenes in the office that you feel like were misrepresented on the show?
You know, I mean, every once in a while, a scene will be misrepresented. Actually, when my brother, he got jealous of Sinu Lee, I think that was his name. Yeah. And he wasn't really think they edited that to make it look like he was pissed off and jealous more so than he was, which I thought was a little unfair, but it was funny. So usually, you know, they take some editing liberties, but it's pretty rare. That's one that stands out. But you know, most of it's pretty fair. We actually, now that we're talking about the show, we just shot a reunion Sunday, a couple days ago. So that's going to air on May 6th. That's going to be good.
So in the most recent season of Selling Sunset, viewers look forward to the introduction of Chelsea with Connie, as well as witnessing the changing relationships between returning cast members. What is your experience working in such a dynamic team, especially in a field where many ghosts club?
What was the last part?
What is your relationship, or what is your experience working in such a dynamic team, especially in a field where many choose to ghost club?
I mean, I do this with all my friends, but it's like the best thing about what we do. And that's, you know, how we got the show is we had that office already there with all of our friends working there. And it was kind of like a family to begin with. It has been for many, many years. To me, you know, and I would urge you guys to form whatever situation that works well for you as your professional lives. But for us, for my brother and I, that's what was fun. We set up the office like a living room, and we brought in the people that we were like our family, and that's what kind of made it fun. So I personally don't mind it, even though there's some pretty good personalities in there. I mean, there's times when you get annoyed just like you do with your family. I would say I'm probably more annoyed now than I was in corporate America, but still happier. You know, if that makes sense. Just like you are with family. You're happier because you love them, but you're annoyed of them.
Could you expand more on how the show has impacted your relationship with different office members?
I don't know specific, but I've known a lot of these women for so long. So I would say the women like Amanda and Mary, you know, some of the Heather, I've even known Davina for quite some time. Who else? Emma. A lot of the girls I've known forever. You know, I mean, from between 6 and 20 years. So the show didn't really change much. But Chelsea, I just met pretty recently. Chris Shell, I met. So I wouldn't have had relationships with them if it wasn't for the show. And I love the relationships I have with them. But most of us were just the exact same. When we go out, we're still idiots, like complete idiots. Whether there's a show or no show, we haven't really changed.
Do you have like a favorite season of Selling Sunset that you enjoyed filming?
Yeah, I'd say Mykonos is my favorite episode. I would say season 5 is probably, well, season 1 was pretty, no, actually season 1 was one of the worst ones. Season 5 was probably my favorite. Season 1, I was like, my brother and I were really scared. Like we didn't trust production at all because why would you? You're on a reality show, you don't know what you can do. And our name's on the business, and we argued with production so much in season 1, so much. It was brutal. And then the show came out. We're like, okay, you kind of did what you said you were going to do. And then we relaxed. And now we're just chill. And we forget the cameras there, which you can probably tell when I cussed out Romain in season 5. Sometimes you just totally forget the cameras are there. But I think season 5 was my favorite, especially Mykonos. That was the best time.
Yeah. So how, if at all, did this season 5 release feel different from the other seasons?
They're all blending together now, But it's always fun when something airs. It's really fun. But I don't think I could separate. Season 1 stands out as me just being anxious the whole time. But the 2, 3, 4, and 5 are kind of, as far as filming, they're all kind of similar. Yeah. I mean, I know it's not supposed to be.
So the Oppenheim group's clientele includes figures like Ellen DeGeneres, Dakota Johnson, Orlando Bloom. How, if at all, do you need to change your workflow process to accommodate for celebrity clients?
Celebrity clients are the biggest pain in the ass you could ever. It is the worst client you could ever have. The more famous people get, the more of a pain in the ass. And I'm not talking about like me fame. I'm talking about like real fame. Those are the clients you don't want. I'd be a cool. But yeah, I think everyone thinks they want to represent celebrities, but celebrities are just biggest pain in the ass. I would recommend against it for whatever field you're going to get into.
Do you have clients that you have a preference for working with or that you particularly enjoy working with?
I have my brother and I have slightly different business models. I have less clients, but they're all like really good friends. I love my clients. Go to their weddings, we travel together, hang out outside of real estate. Whereas my brother's just more like has more clients, doesn't have as things to have in relationships. But you can build your career. This probably goes to a lot of careers outside of real estate. So you can build your career how you want. And I built mine with deep relationships. I have like a lot of really cool clients. They're legit.
Why did you choose to go towards that business model compared to your brother's, where he has more of a range of clients?
I didn't choose it before. I just happened, I guess. I mean, I think that's probably true in life. A lot of things just happen because you are a certain way, so you attract certain things, and then all of a sudden, 10 years later, you're at a particular place because a bunch of little things just happen without you sitting down and making a vision board about it. So I just think a lot of things just kind of happen because I attract a certain type of person, a certain type of relationship, because that's who I am. And my brother is slightly different. He attracts, everyone attracts different things. It's like you attract different lovers or whatever it is.
Yeah, so you have your own brokerage called Oppenheim Real Estate. Do you have any future plans for Oppenheim Real Estate that you're looking forward to?
No, I'm still affiliated with both. And I feel like the Oppenheim group is kind of the more empire trying to take over the world. And mine is just like, I can do what I want with it and kind of chill out and not try to take over the world. So no, I'm not really trying to.
So in a 2020 interview, you stated that I've always
Right,
argued.
you've done some research.
I've always argued that it is hard to be the best in multiple cities, but every other brokerage does it, so who knows? Do you have any desires to leave LA and reestablish yourself somewhere new?
I love LA so much. I really do. I moved down there for law school like 20, I don't know. And I really enjoyed it. So I'm not going to probably ever leave LA full time. I might spend like, if I have enough success, I might spend like 2 months in Europe, a month in Miami, and a month in New York, and a month in South America, whatever. But LA is probably always going to be my home base, I would say. And what was the second part?
Do you have any desires to reestablish yourself somewhere new?
We opened an office in Orange County. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that. We're actually launching topic. We're launching this show in a couple months. On that, beyond that, I don't know. Orange County and LA, I think we're pretty good, at least for a while.
What keeps you in Los Angeles?
Why do I love LA? I mean, I love the Bay Area, but LA is like, there's a real vibe. And I'm a single idiot, and LA is a big, like a nice place for single idiots. And it's warm, you know, it's not crazy expensive. So,
Okay, so before we transition to audience questions, I'm going to go into a few rapid fire questions. So you can just answer these really quickly, and then we'll have time for the audience to ask questions. So what is your favorite spot on campus?
on this campus, we were hanging out in that big grass area outside the library for a while. I like that. Let's go frisbees.
I'll show you the coolest place on campus, and he took me there. I was like, are you sure?
Is that not? It's not because that's like nerdy, or you laugh because it's like obvious. I don't know. Either way, I like that spot. I've been on campus. We just like bought my own apartment for the first time in like 20 years. But that's where we hung out, and I just like watching people and dogs and sun and whatever. That's cool with that.
Do you have a favorite spot in Berkeley outside of campus you'd like to share?
Let's see. Top that, folks.
Favorite property that you sold?
I just sold last week an $18 million condo at that's where I'm at. There was a big house in Beverly Hills that I think was on the show. For $17 million, it was one like that. And then there was that like massive one on Hillside. You guys hopefully remember, it's like $38 million. My brother sold it. That's probably the cool. That might be the coolest.
What element do you look for in like a property when you're seeking the?
Well, I just don't like that. But for myself, I like architecture that's not really going to date. You know, it's like in 20 years it'll still look good. I look for that when I buy my investments. But my clients, I mean, if they want to sell something, I'm going to sell it. Not that they know because I don't like it.
So for my final question of the evening, is there any wisdom that you'd like to impart on students as they seek to graduate and perhaps pursue real estate and other opportunities?
That's the next question. Wisdom I'd like to impart. Yeah, you know, I'm around a lot of rich people and a lot of famous people. And I'm not like saying that to brag, it's pretty cool. And they're not any happier than, if there's one thing I'd like to impart on you, it is that there's diminishing marginal returns, if the economy isn't here, on wealth, I would say. Make your aim to make enough money to where you're comfortable and you can pay your bills and you can save up a little bit of money, whatever. I don't know how much money. It's not many millions. And understand that at that, once you reach that level where you're not stressing about money all the time, that's about the max happiness wealth can provide you. And I don't believe that. You're like, no, if I was a billionaire, trust me. Have you guys seen those? Just hit me right now. Have you seen those, that Johnny Depp trial? Did that guy look super happy? He wakes up with food next to him, and he's got $500 million and super hot wife and everything. So trust me, like fame and money, after a certain level, there's not a linear relationship to happiness in that. I don't know if you didn't get the poop reference, but Google it. So just make enough money and then realize that your happiness is going to be dictated by friendship and love and where you live and what you do and your passions, and not money after the first. It's the diminishing marginal returns on wealth are extreme after you reach a certain level. And I would hope that if everybody knows that, they can calm down a little bit. You don't have to all be billionaires. You know, I met a lot of billionaires and they're no happier than a lot of them. You know, a lot of cases less.
Well, thank you, Brett, for sharing your insight. Right, so we will now be transitioning to audience Q&A. So if you have a question you'd like to ask Brett, please raise your hand and I will call on you. But please do not turn on the mics. Just try to project as loudly as possible. So if you have any questions now, please raise your hand.
Go ahead.
Hi, do you think that starting in law school and having like a legal knowledge provided like a better foundation in real estate, or do you wish you had always like done real estate from the
Great question. I mean, part of me thinks that if I got into real estate at like 18 and didn't even go to school, I'd be doing it. Although I just got done telling you that doing that stuff. But I'm glad I did it the way I did it. I really am. Even corporate America, for the perspective. But law school in particular, because I mean, certainly undergrad, that's pretty easy now, get your undergrad. But law school even, not because it ties directly into real estate, although it does, because there are a lot of contracts. And it taught me a way to think that I think was very helpful. But because I think it gave me confidence, it gave me a platform where people automatically respect you. It gave me prestige. So for the prestige and confidence alone, plus I had a great time, to be honest. I know it sounds weird, but so I think you pretty much, I would recommend going to, especially if you're not getting into debt, go to as much tour as you possibly can. I mean, if you a little bit of debt, but don't get into like $250,000 of debt. Then it might not be worth it. But I would say go to as much school as you can, especially if your parents are paying or you get scholarships or whatever. You're never going to really regret, even if you go to like med school and you end up being arrested. Who cares? Just get as much education as you can. It gives you confidence. It's a fun time. You meet tons of cool people. It gives you your prestige, your resume, all that kind of stuff. It gives you a lot, and you continue to build your mind. So I would recommend that outside of.
In the back.
I'll let you do it. Yeah,
Sure.
I'll put it back.
Yes.
Oh, good question. Well, for one, even though she's not my girlfriend, Tina's pretty excited. Otherwise, that's real figures. I like what I do. I really like what I do. I'd be bored shitless. That's another thing you could probably learn. This whole retirement thing is kind of nonsense. And what do? You're gonna go play golf for 30 years? I mean, if you really think about it, it's boring as shit. I left corporate America and I traveled the world for 4 years because I didn't know what I was gonna do. And I'm not saying I was bored because I went to like 100 countries in a few years. But I had to keep doing that to stay sane and not get bored. So, retirement is boring. It's the concept of retirement is dumb. Find something that you don't want to retire from. You do a little bit less of it. But I mean, I like what I do. I really don't know what I've hung out on beaches and done that whole. I've tried to do that, and I learned the hard way or the interesting way that it's really. How many books are you gonna read on the beach? Like when you see a movie and they retire and it's like, think about 6 years from then, how happy that person is. Every movie ends that way. They're like with their lover on a beach reading a book. It's like, that's cool, but then think about 6 years later. When I was younger, what was my regret?
When you're younger, what is one regret?
I remember meeting earlier. Regret? I mean, I was such an idiot when I was a kid. I went to 4 high schools and I got kicked out of a couple. So I don't know if I regret that though, because I don't really regret anything, to be honest. I'm sure my mom regrets that. I'm honestly not somebody who ever wishes anything different from my past. And that's not because my past is perfect at all. But I mean, aren't you like who you are because of all the dumb shit you've done? So I don't know. I'm proud of all the dumb shit.
So right now, we're sort of, this is a very nitty-gritty question, but right now we're seeing stock market increase, interest rate hike, and even economists like Larry Summers saying that a recession.
Is that inevitable? That's a little arrogant.
But what does that mean for housing specifically in your markets of LA?
I find it very difficult to predict macroeconomic trends. And so does Larry Summers. If you look at everything he said over the last 30 years, and so does any economist. That doesn't mean I don't believe in, economic major, but I mean, if you look at people that tried to, who's that guy who screams all the time on like CNBC and tries to fix stocks? If you look at the stocks he's chosen and you had like a monkey with a Ouija board, you probably make the same amount of money. So I think they've done like stats. So I don't like to make massive predictions, although I think it's outside of certain examples, like in 2007, I knew there was a problem. If your waiter has 7 houses, there's a problem. So every once in a while, there's a problem. But right now, I don't see any massive problems with real estate at all. Actually, it's very hard to find finance. Everyone who owns a home has to come up with 20% minimum. I know there are some exceptions, but essentially minimum 20% down. It's hard to get loans. You have to prove income. There's no bullshit anymore. Your credit has to be strong. So everyone that owns a home, as far as the real estate part of that question, is not going to be forced to sell it if it goes down 10 times, like in 2008. So I don't see any massive issues with the housing market. I really don't. Predicting the stock market, I mean, that's monkey with Ouija board. If he had thought that, why didn't he sell everything 2 months ago? I mean, if you showed me a report that said that he sold all the stocks 2 months ago, I'd be like, okay, that's impressive. But standing up on TV, when most stocks have lost 40% and interest rates are up 75 basis points in the last 3 months, I'm saying it looks like, and inflation's at 8.5%, so you might have a recession. Anyone can see that. So I don't like to make macroeconomic.
I, do you think ever the Orange County housing market is gonna decrease? Especially I think right now it's.
I can guarantee you it will decrease because everything decreases. I mean, nothing goes, but decreases from where it is now.
Yeah, like at least.
It's pretty hot right now. I wouldn't buy personally in Vegas right now. I don't think I'd buy in Austin. I don't think I'd buy in Miami. There's some places where I wouldn't buy right now, but I just bought in LA. I think if you still can find a decent deal and you still can get a decent interest rate, 3.5%, you're good, especially on a 30-year. But I wouldn't get a 3-year interest rate right now because then you could be paying top dollar, it goes down 20%. Interest rates go up, 200 basis points, and in 3 years you're screwed. So I would be getting 10 to 30-year loans, maybe even 30, unless you're going to sell. And I wouldn't buy in an incredibly hot market. And I wouldn't put all my money into this market. I would take it easy right now. If you find a deal, fine, but chill out a little bit. Yeah. Awesome.
Many of us in Europe traditionally lean towards pursuing a career in commercial real estate after college. Could you elaborate what you like about the residential real estate sector and why you choose that?
I personally don't like commercial real estate, but a lot of people do. Because it's less relationship based, for one. It's harder, if I'm being honest. It's just harder. Like doing a commercial deal is a pain in the ass. I mean, I freaking hate doing it. I spent like 8 months on a commercial deal and it'll fall apart. And there's lawyers and there's tours and it is such a pain in the ass. And I can sell a $10 million house in like a weekend. So if you're just doing like ease of money, which should be a factor, I would go residential. But then commercial is more, I would say, arguably more intellectually stimulating. Probably a higher caliber of agent. So there's advantages to commercial real estate as well. But I want to make as much money for the day. I'm not like a workaholic, so I prefer the residential.
How do you remain intellectually stimulated in residential?
I wouldn't say that my career is where I get most of my intellectual stimulation. I get a decent amount of it from it because, almost in every career, the details are where everything is. And there's a lot of details that I don't really think to be the best. You have to master every detail because you're talking about money. So I'm definitely stimulated. But I would rather, I'm much more stimulated with friends, with conversations, with like things on YouTube that I watch, with books, with BBC, current events. I'm more stimulated with that. Not a negative way, but. You still doing it?
in a more lighthearted, like, very small technical questions. Can you tell us more about your
I do like 45 to 50 minutes, 3 or 4 days a week. Yeah, yeah, but nothing too crazy. But I've been doing it, and you guys should get started. I've been doing it since I was like in Berkeley, you know? So you stay in shape, even if you like eat pizza for a month, which sometimes I will do. You get back in the gym for 2 weeks and you look the same. So start early and just, you know, do it for 20 years and it's easy to change. Nice. Wait, a little bit louder, sorry. For someone who wants to start building a real estate portfolio, yeah. Great question. Well, I mean, obviously it takes some capital, but I would say look at real estate from a long-term perspective. I was just talking to the team about this. I would look at it from a long-term perspective. You don't buy something and try to get rich in like 3 years. If you buy a property and you can get it to, either you live there or you get it to cover. By get it to cover, I mean rent it out and have somebody else paying your mortgage, within 90% of your mortgage. So you're not coming out of pocket much. In 10 or 15 years, those rents will be close to double and the price of that property will be close to double. So look at real estate as a way to build, like somebody over here said, generational wealth, or at least, you know, you guys are so young right now. I would try to get started because what are you like? A lot of you like in your 20s. If you buy anything, even by the time you're 30, if you buy anything by the time you're 30, by the time you're 50, it will have doubled, most likely. So if you have 2 properties by the time you're 35, by the time you're 55, you should be basically retired, even though I said don't retire. But you know what I mean, right? So just look at it from a long-term perspective. Just get in. Use leverage, put 20% down, get as much leverage as you can. And just buy something that's gonna rent easy and just forget about it for 15, 20 years, get a 30-year loan. That's the conservative, safe way to buy real estate. One more quick tip I would say, whenever you buy real estate, make sure you can hold on to it for 10 years. Make that your time frame, because even if you are like the most unlucky investor in the history of mankind, or womankind, and you bought like the day before the Great Depression, or you bought a house like the day before World War II, or a house the day before the Great Recession. If you hold on to it for 10 years, you're still making money. So just look at it from that perspective. I got to hold on to this for 10 years. I gotta have enough money in the bank to hold on to it for 10 years. It'll be cool. In almost every case.
Can you elaborate on your and Tina's relationship?
Tina and I were boyfriend girlfriend. We were boyfriend girlfriend, and now we're like just really good friends. Yeah. Yeah. And that's the truth. I mean, she was at Coachella with me. She came up here and kept me company. Yeah, she's my girl, but not my girl. Still available. Oh, sorry.
No, obviously, what's the biggest fail that you're like made, and like, does that like make you want to fire an agent or like, I don't know, just, like,
What was the biggest fail that anybody's ever made?
like, that like the peer group has made, like, financial.
Biggest fail. I wish I had more time to analyze it because I'm sure I could come up with a funny story on the top of my head. Yeah, but even that wasn't the worst fail. Yeah, the well-known fail. Shit, I'll marinate on that. I'm sorry. If I come up with anything funny, I'll tell you what it was this time.
How do you go about managing conflict in the workplace, especially when people you work with are so close to you?
I would probably do a better job of managing it if there wasn't cameras, because they would get mad if I managed it properly. That would make for great TV. But you know what? Everyone on the Selling Sunset show is an adult. The Selling OC show, not so much. So it's not so bad. These are pretty mature people that have, their shit together for the most part. So it's really not. It's, they're all in their late 30s. It's not so bad. I need to touch
What's your favorite book and your favorite
My favorite book is The Elegant Universe. Who's the author of that? I've probably read it like 6 times, but not in the last probably 5 years. It's in, let's see. Anyway, Elegant Universe is by far my favorite. My favorite movie is probably The Matrix, followed closely by Top Gun. Brian Greene, Elegant Universe. Love that. I'm kind of like into quantum physics from a theoretical perspective, not the math part, just the fun part. So that's why I love that. I can understand this. But if you're talking about like English, I'd rather read that book.
Last school are hoping to end for
Could you speak up, please?
So for us wanting to get into the real estate world, you have to take a brokerage course. Like, what's your concept? Right?
Yeah.
Broker yourself, like what qualities are you expecting from us?
Well, my brokerage is weird because we only take people that we know really well, and we don't really grow it as a brokerage. So I don't use my business. We decided against the brokerage model a long time ago. I don't like the brokerage model. But choosing a brokerage, I would say, just like, like how car companies have different, Tesla has a different vibe to Ford or whatever. That's the same with brokerages. I would get on every brokerage website and look at the houses that they sell, the types of houses they sell, where they sell them, and who works at that brokerage. Read the bios of the agents. And that'll give you an idea of who works there and what they sell and where it's sold. And that's pretty much what you need to know when you're deciding where to work. Where do you want to work? The types of people you want to be surrounded with in your sphere of influence, and the types of homes that you want to be selling. And different brokerages sell different types of homes and different types of agents. So I would base it on that. Oh, I'm not gonna, this is being live streamed. So I'm not gonna go there, but I'm just looking back, I would say it's really my brother and I, and I had a buddy, Matt, and the three of us just kind of were like always hanging out at Berkeley for 2 years. And I just remember like the 2 years of good time. And it's actually his birthday tonight. I'm flying back to LA right after this to go party with him. Not my brother's birthday, but my friend Matt. I mean, just stupid shit, like going to get, burritos on, was it La Burrito? I'm going to Top Dog. Those are the times you remember. It's just stupid shit. It's not going to be one moment in particular. Yeah, I would say. And then there's a couple of classes that I took that I remember. I mean, you probably remember like 3% of what you learned, but that 3% makes it worth it. and friends. Your friends make it worth it. Your relationships. Sorry, I've been staring at this guy for an hour.
How do people tell you and your brother apart?
I knew I would do that. Hey, it's being stupid. Yeah, it's like a slightly different shaped head. Yeah, so does he. Yeah. I don't really know. I don't know.
You're a little taller.
I'm a little taller. I'm really not, but for some reason I am on the I know it's tough on that. I don't know.
Well, that is all the time we have this evening. Thank you, Brett, for answering all of our questions.
Thank you all. I'm gonna take a couple good pictures. I'm gonna stick around for pics for you guys. Okay.
Sorry.
Wait.
When everybody stay in your seat, we have a loud, tall man who will yell at you if you do not. So at every forum event, we like to thank our speakers with a custom-made poster. Tonight is no different, so
That's awesome.
I'd like to give it to him.
You got The community law, saying sunset, so I like it. You guys thought that one too.
And then I'd also like to recognize everybody who worked on this event. Of course, my event manager, Dustin, communications lead, Monet, post designer, Ashna, tech lead, Angel, and of course, our moderator, Aaliyah. So I just want to recognize all the hard work of everybody in the forum. Also, there's some lovely alumni in the crowd, so shout out to you guys, and I'm just very thankful for all of you. And thank you everybody for coming. If you have any feedback, please use this forum above. There's a QR code. And to stay up in the loop with all of our events, like us on Facebook and visit our website. All of them are linked below. And also, if you have, you guys are real estate people, so if you have the financial means to, here's our memo if you'd like to help us continue putting on events for the public for free. And we're going to do a quick Berkeley Forum picture. Please stay in your seats for that and then wait for further instructions. So Berkeley Forum people, if you want to come super fast. Oh,